The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
All right, we are here. This is a special episode of Soccer to the Max where we are discussing CONCACAF World Cup qualifying for the current round, and then we'll also be here on Tuesday night after those games end to talk about the last one in September. And they'll have two crucial games left for everybody to figure it out. Mexico has now officially qualified, becoming the fifth team that is officially qualified for the World Cup now, joining Japan, Iran, Russia, of course, as host, Brazil, and I think there was one other one. Yeah, no, that's it. Brazil, Iran, Japan, Russia as host, and Mexico. Now the five qualified nations. For the World Cup, Costa Rica helped themselves after their shocking 2-0 win over the United States. The first time the U.S. has lost on home soil against the Costa Rica since 1985. I wasn't even born or thought of at that point. Amazing. It's been that long. Mexico defeated Panama 1-0 as well in the Azteca. Much more expected that one. But let's get to the U.S. first, because I think this is what's on everybody's minds here. Obviously, we're starting this a couple hours after the game's over, so we've had a little bit of time to simmer, but it's still, I feel like, a sort of instant reaction, sort of hot take thing. This is one of those times where I feel like coming into this game, I think us, not only us, but I think the media, I think the United States as a whole, I think coming off the Gold Cup, coming off everything, I feel like there was a little bit of an overconfidence, a little bit of an arrogance, you could say, by the United States, and I think that led into this selection that Bruce Arena made, because didn't feel like a Bruce Arena. Looking back on it and looking at the way that the team played, this didn't feel like a Bruce Arena team that he put out here. This felt like a Jurgen Klinsmann team. I'm not blaming Jurgen at all. I'm saying that this did not feel like the way that Bruce Arena puts out teams. Yeah, you had a lot of the usual suspects, a lot of the guys that we've been seeing. You know, the Zuzis, the Villafanias, the Nagbys, Bradley where he is, Josie Alter, all that stuff, Pulisic. But just, he's played Pulisic Central before. I don't understand why pushing him over to the right was the best idea. I feel like if Bruce was being Bruce, he wouldn't have played Fabian Johnson at all. Eric, he's coming off of playing 10 minutes for Mönchengladbach. That's it. Like, how is he fit to play in a U.S. qualifying game that means a lot?
First, no, go ahead.
No, and then just I feel like I don't know where he's gotten this. And look, I think that Nagby, when he's played Central, he's been good at getting the ball, whatever. But this also limits what he does best, which is flying at guys, putting them in positions where, oh crap, if he makes the wrong move, he's going to go by me. He can't do that in central midfield. He just can't, and especially not when Costa Rica played this perfectly and just clogged the midfield completely. So, go ahead, I'm sorry, I've been long-winded here, but what are your initial sort of thoughts on this?
You want to know my initial thought? Number one. Number two, you talk about the fact that we lost to the Ticos on home soil for the first time since '85. let me take you a little farther back in the Wayback Machine. Because of this loss, this is the first time since 1958 that the U.S. has lost 2 qualifiers on home soil. Now, going back to when the streak began in 90, through all those qualifiers, 50 of them, we've lost once. Now, this is a Jurgen Klinsmann style team. I completely agree. But this is catering to Fabian Johnson playing in the important games. And this is catering more and more, believe it or not, into Bruce's ever-creeping more MLS mentality. I think you were right. He was terrible decision.
But see, I don't think that's necessarily true. Look at the positions where you had problems tonight. They're not MLS players.
No, and I completely agree. And I think maybe, and I know this is going to be conspiracy theory, but maybe he was doing this in a way to try to prove a point. Saying, hey, I'm incorporating these guys, and for instances like this, it didn't work. See what I was able to do when I had things my way during the Gold Cup, and look at how well that happened.
Yeah, I still disagree, though.
Yeah,
I get the conspiracy, and it might be there, but there's still tweaks you could have made to make this work.
And he absolutely refused.
He did this, but he waited until Clint Dempsey came on to change everything. And it was too late by then.
Yeah, not to mention he waited too late to bring on Clint Dempsey.
I agree with you. This is the second time we're having this argument about he waited too long to bring on Clint Dempsey. I get that that's when super subs come on, right? But isn't that when super subs sort of come on, the 60th minute, around then?
Yes, but at that time, normally, but you can't rely on that super sub mentality every single time. You can't. Especially when you're already down 1-0. Especially when Urania, come on. After he scored that goal, he was ready to torch again. I think in this particular...
And this is a guy that's only scored 4 goals in MLS, by the way.
4. Well,
maybe they defend better in MLS, we should say.
Slightly, but I mean, honestly, Dempsey to me should have come on at the half.
I'll agree with you there.
I get not, if you're not starting him for one reason or another, fine. Bring him on at the half. I
almost feel like now he starts against Honduras.
He has to. We are now in a 3-way tie at 8 points, thanks to Honduras.
No, 2-way. It's only U.S. and Honduras.
No,
Panama didn't tie. If Panama would have tied, they would have 8. They're still at 7 because they lost.
Oh, okay.
They were talking about it so much that it almost felt like it happened, right?
Yeah, and that's why I was saying I don't think Mexico technically qualified because if I remember,
no, they did. They said that. That was a thing they kept saying.
Yes,
Mexico is qualified.
Yes, but I remember the blurb. If I remember,
they are not saying that Mexico qualified as the number 1 team. They're just saying Mexico is qualified for the World Cup.
No, and this is what I was saying. Maybe I misread the blurb, but with Honduras, I thought that Honduras had to not win and the Mexico win for automatic.
No, the U.S. losing then made this happen. If the U.S. and Honduras would have won, then no.
Well, son of a...
Yeah, because now the U.S. would have been the only one besides Costa Rica that could have caught them. And then Honduras winning because of their results against Mexico would have made it possible for Mexico to still maybe wind up as the 3.5 team or whatever. But now that the U.S. lost, there's no way that they don't at least wind up as the number 3 spot. So, yeah, they're totally qualified on 17 points, and I forgot who they're playing. Aren't they playing Trinidad?
I
on the next one?
believe they are.
Now I forgot. I had these, and that's my fault for not having this out here. But anyway, let's get back to this game here.
Yes, the utter
I think the problem is here that, number one, why are you playing a central pairing that has never played together? They played once together in a back five, which doesn't even count because you have so many guys, other guys there to protect you, plus a third center back. I mean, you're playing 3 guys that you've played before together. I get it that John Anthony Brooks is not there. But you know what you do at that point? You either play Cameron with one of the other 2 that have played with him before, or you go with the pairing that you know works in Omar and Beasler, and you say, look, maybe Cameron is a better overall player, but these 2 know how to play together, and these 2 together are better than the one player. And, look, again, we can say that this is that whole thing about, well, I wanted to bring out the European players and have the best talented guys on the pitch and whatever, but you didn't put the team in the best position to succeed.
Talent don't mean crap if you don't know how to use it right.
But like Tim Ream he made a horrible pass that caused the first goal. You can put a little bit on Howard for taking a bad angle, but that's all on Tim Ream for that pass. And then Jeff Cameron doesn't move over to cover him, which is so weird because that should have been his first inclination as a defender, to move over to cover that hole.
Mm-hmm.
He just leaves the hole open and stays with the other guy. At that point, Urena is not thinking about anything but shooting. He's already at a tough angle. He's not going to pass from there. Then the second goal, Cameron's the one that just has an awful pass. And Urena just slots it in because at that point, there's nothing Howard's going to do. Again, you can put a little bit on Howard, but I still feel like just awful.
Yeah, this was terrible. It was flat out terrible.
And then Urena was just beating one or the other to balls, to headers, to everything. Yeah, it just, I felt like the team just went out there, other than some guys. I thought Josie played okay. He played fine.
And now, by the way, you're going to have to make an adjustment because he got a yellow, so he's not going to be available for Honduras.
Yeah, and Dempsey's lucky that he didn't get a red.
Yeah.
I understand frustration, but you can't do that.
No, especially right on the side of the referee, which, don't even get me started on some of the calls the referee made.
Look, I think you could have given a penalty for the Josie getting pulled down by Watson. But, I feel like if that's what we're going to hang our head on here.
No, I'm not hanging my head on it. I'm just saying we were already doing ourselves a major disservice. Having that extra oomph kind of against you doesn't add to anything.
No, I felt like he was just too finicky. Like in the first half, he let a lot of things go. Second half, he was calling a lot of fouls.
He overcorrected.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. You got to be consistent throughout the game, and that's really annoying. That's the most annoying thing as a official, if you have to be consistent, you can't sit here and go, oh, I'm going to overcorrect and then sit here and call a bunch of fouls in the second half. It just, it is what it is at that point. But again, I don't think the referee is in any way, shape, or form the reason why the U.S. lost. Bruce Arena said it himself that they were outplayed and outcoached, and they were. Bruce Arena set that team out in the wrong way and corrected too late and didn't really correct in the way that should have been corrected because they got so desperate, and we haven't had to see them do this in a long time. They got so desperate they had to take both fullbacks out. And then they don't even take out, and I'll give Fabian Johnson credit, he starts making runs once Dempsey comes on and they're at the point where they have to do something. But it's like before then, he's incognito, so that left side is pointless because the U.S. never really has possession long enough to make Villafana or Zusi viable as going forward. So you're having to do everything with either direct balls to Wood or Josie, or you're having to try to do things through the middle. And that's where Costa Rica clogs it up. And
even with the direct balls, that Costa Rican team, they were able to sniff that out as you were generating attacks in the midfield.
And even when they didn't, Keylor Navas made two terrific saves that stopped goals from going in as well, which unfortunately Howard didn't get to make that one save that I feel like he could have made that might have changed things if it stays 0-0 for a little while longer. You never know, because the U.S. was having good possession at times, just they weren't able to do much with it because of the way that how organized Costa Rica was. And they were playing, I think, overall they played much better in the second half because they had to, right? They had to go out there and try to get that goal to tie it up. And I just feel like, again, Palusis had a really bad game. He was getting knocked off the ball. He was getting knocked on his butt. He just responded in frustration instead of trying to figure out what to do. And again, it all happened once Bruce finally said, okay, I got to do something. And he puts Dempsey in, and they change the formation around, and Palusis starts going more central. But he should have been going central the whole time. That's where he has been the most vital, potent, and dangerous for the U.S. is when he plays at the top of the diamond or at the top of the 4-2-3-1 or whatever. Like you have Bradley sitting back there doing his thing, and you either have somebody back there with Bradley that's what they're supposed to do, like a Costa or McCarty or, whoever, whatever, anybody that's not Jermaine Jones. And then you have your wings doing their job, but that's where I kind of like a guy like Bedoya, who doesn't just sit there and go up and down and not understand that I gotta become an extra guy in the midfield to make up the numbers. That didn't happen either.
No, and you make a further point about the midfield. Even after they changed the formations, there was just sort of like daze and confusion, because even when moments there they know they had to attack, there was convoluted communication, a lot of incredibly sloppy passes, and I'm like, everything, I can't say that it was telegraphed, because there were times that Costa Rica was caught off guard. But
Right.
it wasn't long enough to where they couldn't rush back and get back the numbers. And as you say, they clogged all the way down that central corridor, final third back, and it's like, what are you going to do? And you couldn't even rely on set pieces because you weren't giving yourself any chances to get set pieces.
Yeah, and the ones you did were very few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it doesn't it doesn't help at all. Either that, like your front two, a lot of times they were doing the same thing. It's been a while since Bobby Wood and Josie Altidore played together. So again, like this is where I feel like Bruce is going to overcorrect in Honduras, and they're probably going to get a result, and you're going to have a lot of people saying what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
That okay, this is why you got to have the MLS guys in here,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it's like, no, it's about making sure that everybody understands their role before they go out there. And this is again why I bring up Klinsmann, because that was the biggest problem with Klinsmann, right? He just put guys out there, and they're supposed to figure it out. And there is something to be said for letting the guys play, but you have, especially on the national team where you don't play together all the time, you've got to know what you're supposed to do. And like I feel like Bradley is one of the only guys that goes out there and knows what he's supposed to do because he's playing the same spot every time. But like,
yeah, he's your lone bit of consistency, and again, not just knowing what you have to do, but knowing what you have to do and realizing how important this situation is.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I felt like for most of the guys, again, until Dempsey came on, there was no urgency.
No.
There was no, okay, we got to get this going. Like, we got to get this goal. We got to, it was like, okay, well, Palouse is going to try to run up the right side, and then he, like, that move at the end where he tries to run up the right side, gets by a guy, and then he trips himself up, and the ball hits him in the foot, and he has to go backwards, and he just loses the ball. It was like, oh, well, that was Christian Palouse just the whole night. And
yeah. He was the farthest thing from himself I've seen, and
I mean, again, credit to Costa Rica for knowing that and bothering him, and those two fullbacks were great for almost the whole night. And then Costa Rica got smarter and just basically swapped their defenders and just said, okay, we're going to keep fresh legs on the field and just protect this thing. And then, of course, it helped a lot that Ureña scored that second goal and just made it a even tougher ask. But that's the thing, though. Like, this is World Cup qualifying. Until you have qualified, you can never come in overconfident.
No.
And against Costa Rica, we're not even playing like Trinidad and Tobago or, there's no other easy, quote-unquote easy team in this group because Panama always plays them ridiculously tough too. And it's just...
And not to mention the fact that Costa Rica, on top of that, maybe I'm wrong, but I think with how they did in the Gold Cup and how they had their expectations nationally, they were kind of bitter. They were angry. And they're like, we've got a good fan base here with us. Let's go and exact a little revenge.
Right, but this is also the team that beat you 4-0. I mean, they're not a slouch team.
No, and again, not saying that they're a slouch whatsoever, but that 4-0 win and the Gold Cup in between, it's like, okay, let's go and do this. And I also bring up a little bit of revenge. Here's a thought. With the way that with the way the Hex is set up right now, does the U.S. not realize what could potentially happen in October?
Yeah. I mean, you're playing Panama in Orlando, and you're playing Trinidad and Tobago.
God, I wish I could go to that one against Panama, but particularly TNT. I'm circling that one on my calendar. If things go...
Now, that's the last game, though. So by
I'm,
then, you would assume that you know what's going on.
and this is all the more reason why I circle it. Do you not think that TNT, and again, things have to bounce the perfect way for this setup to even happen. I realize that. But you don't think TNT is going to go into that opportunity and say, hey, these SOBs knocked us out in '89 from going to Italy. We can do the same thing here and almost 30 years later?
I don't know that that's going to be the factor why they're going out there. And
it's not going to be the factor.
I mean, it's also, they're at home. It's a point of pride. I mean...
No, but you have to look at it as not the factor, but at the very least a factor. Again, I know this is me going out there, but these are the things that come to my mind.
I mean, that's fair. And I don't think that, you're necessarily, wrong or anything. I'm just saying that, again, by that point, you're hoping that, here we are again with the last 3 games are now having to be do or die when they didn't need to be at all.
Right.
Okay? And so here comes Michael Bradley having to come out and go, oh, we're going to play like our lives depend on it now. And it's like, wait, so what about this game that you just got done playing? Why were you not playing that game like it was,
Yeah, like your life depended on it.
Yeah, like your life depended on it. And it's just like, okay, we kind of knew Honduras was going to win against Trinidad and Tobago, okay? They know what they're facing. You know that you are facing Honduras in San Pedro Sula on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is not a place that you want to go to and then now have to get 3 points. That was the place you were supposed to go to and get a draw like Panama tried to do against Mexico, and that didn't quite work out for them, but they had chances at the end that they could have got what they wanted. But now you're having to go out there and you're having to win. Now, yeah, you can go out there and get the 1-0 win and you get your result and you get out of there and whatever. But this doesn't bode well because, okay, Panama is playing Trinidad and Tobago in Panama, so you would expect that Panama gets 3 points there, and they would be on 10. Imagine if the U.S. is now sitting on, if they lose, or if they get the draw, and U.S. is sitting there on 9, Honduras is sitting there on 9, and Panama wins, and they're sitting there on 10. And now the U.S. is in that intercontinental playoff, and they're having to go to Orlando in October and have to beat Panama.
I don't like those odds.
Yeah,
I don't like those odds.
This game was very, very important, and they did not play like it was an important game. Now, granted, you got the Central America Clásico in San Jose. Costa Rica probably wins that one. But, they could be a draw for Honduras, and that's another point. And, yeah, Honduras has to play Mexico at the end in San Pedro Sula. That's going to be a hard one to ask them to win. And, yeah, Panama has to play Costa Rica at the end, and U.S. has the easiest game. But so many things we've seen happen. We've seen Honduras get into the World Cup because the U.S. did something. I mean, you don't want to not have your destiny in your own hands. And, yeah, even though you're only playing Asia, you don't want to have to go to that intercontinental playoff at all.
No, because even with some of those Asian teams, look at who's in the running for that 5th place playoff. I don't want to play any of them.
No, it's just, to me, it's, like I said, this is why this game was so much more important than the way that the U.S. played tonight. And I feel like Australia is going to wind up getting that second spot in Group B, and it's going to wind up being, I think, Saudi Arabia, probably either Saudi Arabia or the UAE getting that going to the playoff, or I don't know if it's Uzbekistan or whatever. I mean, even if it's Korea, like, I don't know that you want to play Korea in that kind of spot.
I don't.
So like, that's the thing. It's not a given. I mean, yes. Would you rather play New Zealand? Sure, but you're not this time. Yeah, you're not playing the mailman. So
No.
it's not a guarantee that whether it's the U.S., whether it's Honduras, whether it's Panama, you go in there and get that win for CONCACAF, and you have 4 teams from CONCACAF. So now, looking at things, should the U.S. beat any of these teams? Yes, they should. Okay? Even if it winds up being Australia for some reason, yes, you should. You should beat any of these teams that are left to qualify from Asia. But it's not a given. So, look, everybody now has to expect that Saturday or Tuesday rolls around, that result better be 3 points. Or this is going to be some talk for a month.
Personally, you want a good take? We don't get 3 points in Honduras on Tuesday. I think we're done.
I don't think we're done. I think it's a problem. It's a huge problem. But it would take a lot for them not to get to at least the playoff. Because you should be beating Panama and Orlando. I don't care about... And I think the Panamanian contingent is not in Orlando. It's in other places.
Right.
I might be wrong in that. You won't have the situation you had tonight with the Costa Rica.
With Orlando, you don't have a Panamanian contingent. That's more Puerto Rican and places that are closer to Orlando.
Cuba, all that.
Right.
But like, for me, and I wanted to spill this theory right now. The U.S. does not have a Wembley Stadium, a San Jose, a San Pedro Sula, or whatever. The U.S. travels.
Right.
Because they can.
Yeah.
Because they want to. And this bullcrap about this game should have been scheduled in Red Bull Arena, knowing the Costa Ricans, there's a huge Costa Rican contingent over there in New Jersey, New York. Yeah, there is. But guess what? This is going to happen almost anywhere they go. How many times do they run into there's a Mexican contingent?
Right.
Or whatever. Like, I think that's such BS that, there was no home field advantage, that's why they lost. No, it's not.
I'm completely on your side, and especially with how they did the ticket allocation. If I remember right, what was it? 4,000 just to the American Outlaws, and you had both Red Bulls and NYCFC. Both of those clubs got heavy allocations to go to that match.
I mean, it doesn't mean that they didn't try to sell them to other people, but
the fact that you're right. We tried to create some sort of home field advantage, and we accounted for that contingent. So, no, the fan base there, that's completely irrelevant.
Well, it doesn't matter, because guess what you're about to go do? You're about to go to Honduras where the crowd is on top of you and hate you. So, really, that's just getting you ready for that.
Yeah.
So, I just...
And this is why I say I do think if we don't get 3 points, we're done. Not so much because of the schedule or because of the permutations or the math. You said yourself, there's going to be talk about this
I just don't think they're done because of who Panama and who Honduras have to play vis-a-vis who the U.S. have to play.
Right.
The U.S. gets their crap done in Orlando. They're at least getting the third spot.
But do you not think that there is still going to be, and you pointed this out yourself, some talk for a month?
Well, yeah, of course there is, because...
So do you not think that that would create a sort of psychological...
No, what it creates is the absolute urgency that you better go out there in Orlando and get your damn 3 points. And that's the point that I'm trying to make here is... you have the Trinidad, and I'm not trying to put down Trinidad at all. I'm saying that if Trinidad loses this game against, I forgot who they're playing now. I think it's Mexico. Or no, I think it is Mexico. I don't know why I can't. I had these all down just a second ago, and now I'm forgetting everything. But okay, so yes, they're playing. No, it's Panama's playing Trinidad. It's in Panama. Panama knows they have to get the 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see Trinidad getting an upset there. Then they play Mexico, and then they play the United States. So, unless Mexico just bottles it, which I don't think they will.
They're not.
Mexico probably want to try to break the record for how many points you can get in the hex or whatever at this point. Honduras also has to play Mexico. Yes, it's in San Pedro Sula, but... And they could get the win there. They could get a draw there. But again...
I wonder, what is the record for points in the hex?
Is it points? I don't know. I don't know if somebody's ever gone perfect in the hex or...
No, I know nobody's gone perfect in the hex. That's why I say it's probably somewhere in the lower 20s.
Probably. Yeah, I think there has been at least somebody got 22 one time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And with the... 3 more wins. Yeah, Mexico could get to 26, and I mean, that would be a huge point of emphasis for them.
Yeah, and I think, like, Panama being at home against Costa Rica, you're saying you should win, but again, it's Costa Rica. That's not a given that you beat them either.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, does the U.S.'s schedule works out favorably for them after this game of Honduras? But again, you don't. The whole reason why this is going to be a huge talk is that the more that you don't get the 3 points, the less you have control of what happens. You then now have to rely on Costa Rica going and beating Honduras to prevent them from getting any kind of points in that game. You then have to go and you have to beat Panama, which is always a hard team for you to beat. Harder than Honduras, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, again, this game was important.
There's going to be some sort of level of psychology into this.
Right, but I don't think they're done because of how close things are and that they don't have to do too much to try to get into that third spot. Again, if they lose... Honduras is on 11. Unless, the U.S. loses by like 8 goals, there's still the goal difference thing to where if Honduras loses to Costa Rica and the U.S. beats Panama, we're right back at the same thing again, and U.S. leads by goal difference. So that's what I'm saying. It's not like dire, but it's also not what you want. Right? So
Well... We'll see. Again, I'm willing to go ahead, be on my island, drink.
Uh-oh. Did he get disconnected here? Or just go on mute or something? I don't know what happened, but I think we... Just to move on to the Mexico game, in case I don't get Erik here back, I feel like really it was Panama played the perfect 45 minutes. First 45 minutes, they held Mexico for the most part. Mexico had chances. Their goalkeeper made some terrific saves. Memo Ochoa made some good saves, and then
Especially towards the end.
the second half, Mexico kind of just said, okay, we're going to take this thing over. They broke the dam for that first goal. And then for a while, for about 20 minutes, it was just a Mexico onslaught. And then finally, they make the final. And actually, I give Panama credit for making that move in about the 27th minute that they brought on Quintero, because that really made them much more attacking.
And I was curious about that because I saw that move and I thought, okay.
Yeah, I think even the announcers were kind of like, I don't know what to. And oh my God, I had to switch to Univision because I love Jorge Perez Navarro, but Trujillo is so bad. Bad.
You didn't watch it on Univision from the beginning? I did.
No, because I love Jorge Perez Navarro, and I like to appreciate that he really has tried to learn English, and they still let him call the goals in Spanish, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. But like,
well, you're lucky in that sense because the only channels that I had were all in Spanish. So I'm like, okay. Univision.
It was on FS1. You couldn't watch FS1.
I didn't see it on FS1
Yeah, that's what it was on. Was it? Oh no, it was FS2. It's FS2.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, FS1? No, they were airing something in.
Yeah, but I gave you the how to get in to watch it on FS2.
Yes, well, my internet was kind of janky in my den.
Oh, okay. I have to go all the way downstairs away from my computers to be able to watch it.
I'm pretty sure at this point I might need a new Wi-Fi extender because I've been having some problems with my current one.
You know, the thing is, either way, like Trujillo was just acting like he's just making conversation with Navarro the whole time. It was just awful. And then he was blatantly going, well, I want Mexico to win, and all this stuff. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be an awful 90 minutes. I put it on mute after a while.
The more that I watch, the more reason why I'm glad I watched it on Univision. Now, granted, I had to translate about a third of the commentary and everything for my mom who was in the room with me, but then come almost halftime, she's like, I can't take this Spanish. I gotta go.
Yeah. But, yeah, you know, the thing is, for me, mainly, it's just, Mexico, I thought, like, they never panicked.
No.
They knew that Panama was going to break eventually because you can't play that way for 90 minutes. I mean, yeah, Jamaica did it, but it was against a much less skilled Mexico side.
Right.
Other than Jimenez being very selfish at times going forward, I think, you know, Lozano finally scores that goal, opens things up.
And it was weird because the announcer, and I'm going to get to something I also noticed from the Univision announcers in a second, but they had said, okay, player of the match, the guy to watch, Lozano, knows about 10 minutes later who benefits from the great combination play and that centering pass on the header? Lozano. And when did all of a sudden Chicharito become flat out Chicharo? Did I miss something? Because I never got that memo.
No, you didn't miss anything. They're so weird sometimes with what they do with how they call him and everything. But yeah, it's just one of these things where, like, it's not that I thought. I just realized that, like, Go 90 makes having BN like useless because they show everything on Go 90. But so I'm glad I didn't switch providers after PS View decided to take off BN because apparently they just show everything on Go 90 anyway. But,
yeah, no,
not illegally. They apparently have some deal. I think that BN probably wishes they didn't have anymore.
Now, if 90 would step their game up, I would give them more credit.
I I didn't have so much trouble with the North Carolina Courage and Washington game watching it live. They had a couple of little spits and spats at times, but for the most part, it worked pretty well. North Carolina won that game, by the way. It was a pretty entertaining game. For the most part, it was close until North Carolina pulled away, and then Washington got that second one late. But then they did qualify for the playoffs now, so the reigning champions get to defend their crown at least. But that's kind of all I got for NWSL, other than Lydia Williams getting traded, which was weird. But Rachel's not on with us for us to really go on that. But I thought for the most part, Memo Ochoa had to make a lot of good saves to prevent Panama from getting into even that last one that goes over the bar that they could have tied it on the 93rd minute or whatever.
I think his final count was like 5 on the night, 5 or 6.
Yeah, 5 or 6, and also Calderon for Panama made a lot of good saves too.
He did, and I'm hoping Chan is okay because you don't want to see anybody being carried off on the stretcher. So,
no, but he was a liability defensively, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he was a great player and it's a big loss. I'm just saying, again, stretcher equals bad.
I'm surprised they didn't put Blas Perez on at some point in that one, because you just needed a goal, and if there's anybody on that squad that knows how to just sniff around and find a goal, it's him.
Yeah, but I think it's to the point of Panama. I don't think they should adopt the strategy of, okay, try to prepare because at some point he's going to retire. Not for the rest of this cycle, but that might have been where their head was at.
Well, I'm sure that after the World Cup he's probably retiring, but if you're going to call him up, then
yeah, and that's what
needed
I'm
him
saying.
in something.
If you have him
needed
available
him for something like that.
Yeah, if you have him available for this cycle, you go ahead, you play him. You have him there because he does get those goals. He's your man. But if you're going to try to say, okay, after Russia he's done, then let him go out early and don't even call him up.
Yeah, I mean, Panama took the strategy that most teams take when they go to Azteca, just try to defend and see what you can get. They had some good chances. Again, Memo Ochoa made quite a few saves. So did Calderon. But at the end, Mexico just had a little bit more class, got the goal. They kept going, which I appreciate. They didn't just hold on, even though announcers kept calling for it in the last 10 minutes for them to just hold on. But, Mexico doing their thing, just kept attacking. That second goal just didn't come. But, now Osorio's going to be back on the bench, and this is going to be interesting for how much. He even got booed when he got introduced, so I cannot imagine if Mexico somehow doesn't play the greatest in their next game or something like that, and Osorio's there.
It's gonna fall on him.
Yeah, but they're playing Costa Rica. That's no joke. So and it's for the lead in CONCACAF. Basically, if Costa Rica wins, they're back to leading on goal difference. So that game's big.
It's gonna be some extremely quirky times, and to all those schools in Mexico who were waiting to get that money from either the federation or the government, yeah, sorry, that ain't happening.
Yeah, they were still doing the chant.
Yeah. Because I remember we talked about that off air, and we agreed. I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work. It's way too inbred.
Yeah, because it's not just a group of people. It's like large parts of the stadium doing it.
Yeah. So I'm like, I was waiting for it, and then that first goal kick, I'm like, yep, there it was. So much for that.
Yeah, so this is how things stand right now as far as the Hex, obviously we got to wait till Tuesday to get the final, and then on Tuesday when we have our show, we'll kind of talk about other federations, Asia, Europe, how that's all stacking up. But we kind of focus on CONCACAF because I think other than CONMEBOL, there's still games that are being played, like tomorrow even, and everything
Mm-hmm.
else that would make us talking about Europe kind of dumb right now. But yeah, so it's Mexico with 17 points leading the Hex. They're up 1 goal difference on Costa Rica. So like I said, if Costa Rica scores another goal and beats Mexico for some reason, they'd be tied on goal difference, and then Costa Rica would be leading on goals scored, like they were until Mexico played the game today, or later that night or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Costa Rica's in second on 14 points. Then you have the tie with the United States and Honduras on third and fourth. United States is a +1 goal difference. Honduras is a -7. So Honduras is in the playoff right now. Panama's right behind them in 7 with a -1 goal difference, and then Trinidad and Tobago are sitting there on a lowly 3 points. They are not eliminated. They could make things more interesting if they somehow beat Panama, because then they'd only be a point behind Panama if they were to beat them. So
Yeah,
it's on.
but at this point, if they do beat Panama, they would kind of be delaying the inevitable.
Right. I mean, their best opportunity was to beat Honduras and then go and beat Panama, and then you would have had 9 points, and you would have been ahead of both Honduras and Panama at that point. You would have been going for the playoff. But it's not totally out of reach, again, because let's say the United States win and Trinidad and Tobago win, then that playoff is only being separated by like 1 and 2 points, and it's totally doable for all those teams to fight for that 4th spot. So this is again why this is important for Honduras to win or get a point, because that gives you some separation in case, even if Panama makes a run or Trinidad and Tobago or whatever. So these games are vital here. So we'll see how much grit and fight is in these Final Four teams that are fighting for those spots. Costa Rica is well on their way at this point, and if they somehow get a draw or even beat Mexico, they will also be pretty much automatically qualified at that point. So this win for Costa Rica was big. For them. And yeah, the games on Tuesday are Honduras in San Pedro Sula against the United States. That's going to be at 5:30. I think the kickoff probably winds up being at like 5:45 or something like that. And then you got Costa Rica and Mexico at 8 in San Jose, and then you got an hour later in Panama and Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, I'm glad I'm drinking.
But all right, I think that's going to do it for us on this reaction review of the United States men's national team losing to Costa Rica 2-0 and Mexico defeating Panama 1-0 as well. So, and Honduras beat Trinidad and Tobago 2-1. Of course, neither one of us watched that game, but probably should at some point here watch it before we get to that game, just so we can know what to kind of expect. But I'll see what happens. But again, Tuesday, big game for everybody, for this whole Hex. All those games are huge.
Thankfully, Dawn is being nice, and there's only 4 MLS games on Saturday, so if I can catch a replay of the TNT Honduras match, I can set it to record.
Well, that'll be on either BN or Go 90, I think.
Well, thankfully, I do have BN, so...
Yeah, you just have to go see if you can... I'd go look like right now when we get done and see it whenever the next replay is and just record it.
Yep, that's my plan.
Because they're also doing replays of CONMEBOL games, so I don't know when they would end up showing it. But, Argentina keeps just doing awful. right now qualifying. So this actually, you know what? We got about a couple minutes before we hit the 1 hour mark. Let's play around with this because CONMEBOL is actually doing the same as CONCACAF, where they're playing on these 2 days.
Well, yeah, because CONMEBOL does it because they have a vast majority of their players based in Europe, so they scheduled the double match days because easier travel.
Yeah, so they did the August 31st and September 5th, and then they did October 5th and October 10th. Like, we have October 6th and October 10th. So
right,
they had Uruguay, Argentina went 0-0. Chile was whooped by Paraguay. I feel like that luster starting to wear off of Chile. Venezuela did a wonderful draw against Colombia. Colombia always seems to have a problem with Venezuela. I don't know why. Brazil keeps scoring goals. Paulinho and Coutinho.
There's a joke that I could have made there.
Paulinho and Coutinho with 2 goals beating Ecuador. And Peru beats Bolivia. Everybody beats Bolivia, basically. Flores and Cueva with those 4 minutes apart. So let's look at these. Brazil's already qualified, as I already said. You got... I have to scroll so much because they have so many games. You got Bolivia and Chile in La Paz. You got Colombia and Brazil. That should be interesting. In Barranquilla. You got Ecuador and Peru and Quito. So you got the all that going on. Argentina is going to play in Buenos Aires against Venezuela. And you got Paraguay and Uruguay in Asunción. So this is how this looks right now before they play those games on Tuesday. You got Brazil with 36 points, blowing out everybody.
Of course.
They've only lost once and have 3 draws.
And
so
they've played what? 15?
Yeah, everybody's played 15 games.
Okay, because I know that they have
they play 18 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have Colombia sitting in second, but it's really close after this. Colombia's in second with 25. Uruguay has 24 points. They're in third. Chile has 23 points. They're in fourth. These are all the automatic qualification spots. And then Argentina sitting there in the playoff spot on 23 with Chile. But right behind them, Peru, 21, Paraguay, 21, Ecuador, 20. So this is not...
Wow.
None of this is... of course, Bolivia has 10 and Venezuela has 7. So none of this is sewn up at all.
So you've got... what would it... 7 teams...
5 spots. Well, actually, you've got... Well, Brazil's already qualified, so they're not...
Yeah, that's why I say I knock out Brazil.
1, 2, 3,
I knock
4,
out your
5,
cellar
6.
dwellers. So that's 7 teams, and you're fighting for
4 spots, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun ride here for the... Yeah, so like you would expect, Chile gets their 3 points. So let's say everything goes chalk, right? So... Chile and Argentina get their 3 points. That means they stay where they are. If Brazil beats Colombia, that would make it to where Colombia drops at least, probably at least 2 spots. And then Peru and Ecuador play each other. So unless they just draw each other, but that's possible. And then Uruguay and Paraguay play each other. So, if somehow Uruguay loses, man, that becomes even more muddled.
I don't know. There's a part of me that's rooting for Colombia because I would love to see them back. It would be their first time since '94, and we all know how '94 ended.
They were in the last World Cup.
They were?
Yes. Remember, James arrived and everything, and that's when he got signed to Real
Oh.
Madrid. And then Juan Cuadrado was signed, and yeah.
Wow. I need to drink more because I completely forgot about that.
No, I'm hoping for some chaos here. So like Paraguay, Ecuador and Peru are playing each other, but like Paraguay win, like I want to see all this go crazy, and like we don't even know who the hell's going to qualify, even going into match day 18. So
It seems like it's going to be that almost regardless.
well, it could get real crazy if, say, like Venezuela and Bolivia pull off upsets or whatever. But
Hey, I have dealt with spoilers.
Venezuela's done that to Argentina before, so it's not anything. I mean, I think it's like the last cycle they did that to them, so it's not anything unexpected. Honestly, if it did happen, but I'm saying, like, let's say Brazil beats Colombia, which stagnates them, and like Peru, Ecuador, one of them wins. If you have like the upsets happen with Argentina and Chile, or Chile wins and Argentina doesn't, or Paraguay beats Uruguay, man, that's gonna be so just like stacked there as far as any wrong move here leaves you out.
And you think about this, all this talk about the U.S. and their peril. Imagine if Argentina doesn't qualify.
Yeah, and they have the old Chile coach, Sampioli, so, that'll make it even more interesting there. But, yeah, I mean, Argentina doesn't have a hard road. They play Peru, Ecuador the last 2 days, and then, of course, Venezuela, so they don't have it hard. They just got to win their games to put it out of reach. That's easier said than done with the way South America operates. So Uruguay doesn't have it too hard after Paraguay either. They get Venezuela and Bolivia. But, crazier things have happened. I just love this because it's always I love it when it's so stacked. I hate it. It makes CONMEBOL so much more interesting when it's like this, because there's years sometimes where like it's everybody fighting for one spot. This is a lot nicer when it's a bunch of teams fighting for more spots. So, all right, yeah, now we can officially close the book on this one. If you enjoyed what you heard here, you can always hit that subscribe button. It will get you every single time that we do a Soccer to the Max, whether it's one of these where we do a reaction to a U.S. men's national team or a U.S. women's national team, or, another team in CONCACAF or whatever. Or we just, do our regular episodes, which are one on Wednesday normally, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and then on Sunday night into Monday morning is when we do the sort of weekend wrap up for MLS and NWSL and all that stuff. So, so hopefully you enjoyed it for Erik and myself. Make sure you check out that W2Mnet.com. Make sure you check out Last Word on Soccer as well. You can find us there. And anywhere else you like podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, all those places. Until Sunday night, we'll see you later, everybody.
Peace.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.